Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest version of our podcast. And we've been known to have a couple really good guests on board with us. And today is no exception. This is going to be another really good one. For those of you who don't know, this is Carissa Gump. And she has been a longtime friend. And she has a big background in weightlifting and strength and conditioning. So she's an ideal candidate to be one of our speakers here. I don't know if she can top Phil Sabatini. He was a pretty good one.
Ooh,
So
I'm
the
a big
pressure
fan of
is
Phil
on.
too.
the
I
pressure's
really
on.
am. I enjoy Phil a lot. He's
Yeah,
got
so thank you, Carissa, for being part of this podcast. We really appreciate that. And Cait, of course, thank you for setting everything up. We've been doing this for several months now,
Almost a
and we've
year.
been getting some pretty good response. So
Yeah.
we're just trying to spread the word about what our sport is all about of weightlifting and also the strength and conditioning world, and just trying to bring you some top level information that you kind of behind the scenes that maybe you weren't aware of. So. Let me just introduce Carissa, and I'm going to pretty much let her introduce herself just by kind of going over some of her background, like where she got started and where she's at right now. So I'll kind of turn it over to you right now, Carissa.
Oh goodness. Okay. Well,
Where do
thanks
you
for
start,
having
right?
me. This is just like, hanging out with some old friends and catching up and
Yeah.
stuff. So, super comfortable chit-chatting. I started lifting when I was 12 years old. It was an after-school intramural program. My PE teacher was the weightlifting coach at the middle school I attended. He approached me in sixth grade and I said, like, what is this weightlifting thing? Like, I don't want to go hang out with boys. And I went into the weight room once and it was all full of boys. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this. He was very persistent and was bugging me, started bugging my mom who worked with him. And around that time, that was about seventh grade, he had some other girls that were in there lifting and they were successful. They were medaling at junior national championships. And I think that competitive spirit was in me, but I didn't know it until then because I remember thinking like, wow, if they can do it, I can do it, like maybe this would be something. Um, and oftentimes I think, when you're that age, 12, 13, you're kind of looking for your place and your community of people. And, for many of us, the gym is where, it's our chosen family and our friends. And so that was, I think, one of the reasons too I was pulled in was, it was another way to hang out with my friends. They think it's really funny that I took this weightlifting thing this far when it was, just an after school program, and it's shaped my entire life. I did start lifting in eighth grade with that group of girls. Trained for 2 months, qualified for my first junior nationals, and I placed second at that competition. So from there, I just got hooked and kept lifting, kept training. Went on to high school and would take the activity bus to the middle school. I would ride my bike to the gym, and it just kind of took off from there. Moved to Colorado Springs when I was 17. I was a resident athlete at the Olympic Training Center. That program is now extinct, unfortunately, but it
Yeah,
was,
unfortunately, right.
one of those times I look back on and I had no idea, but like some of the best times in my life, the best training environment ever. Just the environment and the culture, you could just walk in and feel it. So I trained at the OTC 2000. I did a training special, and then 2001 I moved out from Vermont to Colorado Springs. I was still in high school. And I lived there and trained there until January of 2009. Just again, an incredible environment. But I realized, weightlifting is not one of those sports that's going to financially carry me through the rest of my life. And my education was something always very important, as well as, working and getting work experience. So I went to college. I have a bachelor's in sport management because sport is very much so, always been a part of my life. I love the term that the Olympic Committee uses, the team behind the team. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be on the other side of sport to help athletes because I recognized all of those people that were there for me to support me in my journey. So finished school, worked for the Olympic and Paralympic Committee for a little bit. I worked for USA Weightlifting for about 6 years, and the last almost 9 years, I've worked with the National Strength and Conditioning Association, and I oversee and run their foundation. It's an incredible job. I love what I do every day. It's really just so unique. Every day is different, but I also still get to engage and interact with a lot of the same people that I have known for over almost 30 years now. I'll be 42 in August, and I started when I was 12. So really exciting for me. I've known Leo for over 20 years as well. And just, getting to work with like-minded people and passionate people for so long and continue to help, the sport and the strength and conditioning industry grow. So that's a little bit of part of my journey. I did go to the Olympics.
Wait a minute, I think we're missing.
I left that out. I'm
He's
sorry.
here.
I'm sorry. I left that out.
A little bit.
Yeah, I competed at the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing. I was the first 63 kilo female lifter. That was the weight class back in the day to compete for Team USA, and also the last 63 kilo athlete to compete for Team USA. And yeah, so I was inducted a few years ago into the USA Weightlifting Hall of Fame. That kind of made me feel a little old. But
don't feel old.
I have, and I've always had, even when I was competing, I've had this incredible imposter syndrome. I grew up, my role model was Tara Knott Cunningham. She's an Olympic gold medalist in 2000 and a training partner of mine at the OTC in Colorado. And, I wanted to be like Tara. I wanted to be like, Kara Heads and Cheryl, and to think, I am part of this small elite group of women. I think there's less than 20 of us in the United States. It's still surreal, which is funny to say because, weightlifting, it's not like gymnastics or figure skating, where it's point based. Like either you lifted the weight or you didn't. And I know I lifted the weight, but it's still, kind of just crazy for me again to think that I'm part of that elite group of women and that, somebody might have looked up to me the way that I looked up to, Tara and Cheryl and Kara and Robin, that first team of women at the Olympic Games.
They were the groundbreakers.
They really were, but there were also, a lot of women that came before them that, weren't on that team. You had, Cassie Clark, you had Khadijah Hunter, you had Ursula Garza Papadrea, and then even before that, if we're going to go way back, we've had women like Meg Stone and Jan Todd. There are women that paved the way for, other strength sport athletes.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I would like to see our younger athletes and coaches go back into the history books a little bit, because those women that you're talking about, they were the groundbreakers. They were the ones that crashed through that glass ceiling. And
Karen Marshall.
Oh my God, the success that we're having with our women's national and international teams right now, unbelievable. I remember when we used to, and it really led the way because I set up weightlifting meets for years and years, and we would have 6 sessions during the day. The first session, years ago now, the first session was just women, and there was like 5 or 6, and all the other sessions were men. Well, now, if you have 6 sessions, 3 or 4 of those sessions are women and the other 2 or 3 are men. So yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think especially our younger lifters, they have to understand they should understand the history, then they can appreciate and respect more what they're doing now. And you are certainly one of those leaders that got everybody going. Yeah, I know you had a lot of women that you could look up to, as well as men.
Yeah.
But you were one of the groundbreakers too, and so appreciate you saying that. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
that
Leo, before we
Olympic.
go on to another question, I think it's also really important because a lot of, I teach courses now, USAW courses, our courses, and it's always one of the facts I bring up is ask everyone in the room, like, when was the first year women were in the Olympics? And everyone is so astonished to hear that in the sport of weightlifting it was in 2000. Like, we all think that it was in the 70s and 80s and even before that, and so it wasn't too long ago that there was this group of women, you included, that were really like breaking the way and like showing other women what was possible. So
Yeah,
it's really
2000 for women's weightlifting, and then
yeah,
2004 for women's wrestling. So, I
true.
mean, there are
Yeah.
still a lot of, I mean, I don't know specifically. I think by now we have, a equal playing field, and, there's, women and all these other sports. But yeah, when they find that out, they're always like, really? It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
the first women's world championships was in the 80s, but it
Yep.
took nearly 20 years
To get into
for
the
it
Olympics.
to be
And the United
recognized.
and the United States was one of the big endorsers of women's weightlifting. Matter
Yeah.
of fact, the first
Yeah.
World Championships, I believe, was 1989 in Daytona Beach.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
we've been pushing for the women's weightlifting for years.
yeah, I love, being part of that evolution of that. And I love looking around now, going to a gym or, just being out in public and seeing, more women with muscles,
Mm-hmm.
because there was, very few of us. And I got a lot of comments, positive and negative,
Mm-hmm.
from people like, why is your neck so big? Well, these are called traps, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I love this evolution and this boom of, women athletes, especially, women who are lifting weights and are, the generation, the ones, mid 30s, early 40s, we're also not going to have the same health problems that, our moms and our grandmothers have. I think that our life expectancy is, going to increase because we are more active and we're healthier. And we're also setting really good examples, for the younger generation and for our daughters that, this is a lifestyle. This isn't, like people say, oh, I'm on a diet. No, if you're not on a diet, this needs to be a lifestyle. This
Yeah.
is something that's permanent. And lifting and being active is always going to be part of my lifestyle. And I've got monster bones, I've been told, from my DEXA scan. And I don't think I'll ever have osteoporosis or osteopenia. There's just so many great benefits aside from competing and community and friendship and all that, but the health benefits of it are incredible.
I also
And
love
your
that you
goals
brought up.
change. I'm sorry, Kate, go ahead.
Yes.
No, you're okay. I also love that you brought up the imposter syndrome piece and like speaking. I know you've spoken on a couple podcasts about that, and just talking to upcoming generations. I think it's so easy to see someone with the success that you've had and assume that you haven't faced any of those challenges. So the fact that you're going out and talking about it vocally and sharing all that is huge, because other people trying to get to where you've gone start to see themselves in you, right? And start to see that
Yeah.
you're a real person and that you struggle with imposter syndrome. We struggle with imposter syndrome at a different point in our career.
Well, I can tell you, I can, Kate, you kind of cut off there a little bit.
Oh, she froze.
There you go.
Is
Froze
she
up on
back?
us.
Oh no. Is it on my end?
Now
There you
you're
go. Now
good.
you're
You're
back.
good. You're back.
Okay.
You can edit that
Okay.
out.
All right. We'll let Jess clean that up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Go,
one of the
Jess.
Sorry, my
things
loss.
I,
It's all
I
good.
wanted to bring up is that when Carissa was working with me as well with East Coast Gold, one of the things that I found, and I think the listeners need to know this, from a mental standpoint, it
Mm.
was a real struggle for you as far as, and this has a little bit to do with the imposter syndrome. You don't think you belong there, or you have doubts about yourself or anxiety. There's a lot of different things. One of the things that I found for me to make you a little bit more successful was to help you get through those mental things. And because you would literally close your ears, you didn't want to hear the weights announced because it would psych you out. And
Yeah.
big part of my job was not only making sure physically you were ready, but mentally ready. You want to talk about that just a little bit? Because
Yeah,
nobody's perfect and everybody has their hangups for sure.
yeah, I was, and I hate when I say this, I was a gym lifter. I wasn't a meat lifter. I clean and jerked 128 in training. I had 100 overhead in the snatch in the gym. But in competition, I think 92.5 and 121, 125. I can't remember what my best was. Um, there was a gap with it, and it all came down to performance anxiety. It was never, I didn't have a hard time cutting weight or anything like that. It came down to, going out on the platform and executing it. I remember going out on the platform and just kind of like forgetting, like, what am I doing? How do I pull this? Like the lifts felt completely different to me from backstage to the front of the stage. It felt, just so much heavier. And I, experienced the anxiety and palpitations, and a couple times I remember throwing up, and I just had to work so hard on that. So even though I was still a mess, I probably would have been even worse if I hadn't, put the effort in. But just a lot of work with sports psychology. I had a sports psychologist, Sean McCann. And then, oh, we lost Cait.
Keep talking. We're good.
Okay. All right. So I had a sports psychologist, Sean McCann, that I worked with. I had, cassette tapes that were you, Leo, talking, through the competition to help with, visualizing, warming up, getting ready, walking out on the platform. All of that stuff really, really helped prepare me. But the performance anxiety was a really big, struggle for me, even right up to, the Olympics. It was just really, really something that I had to work on. And the confidence, I knew I was strong. I knew my coaches would never put a weight on the bar that I couldn't handle. I knew I had great training, leading up to the competitions. But when I stepped on that platform, that was really, really a struggle for me. And I often wonder if I did compete again, which I'm officially retired. I've submitted paperwork and all that. But I often wonder, it's been 17 years since I've competed, how my mindset now as a mom and just, more experience with life, what it would be like to go out and compete on the platform mentally for me, if the switch would flip and I would have that come back, or if it would change. And I will say one of the biggest things that changed for me near the end of my career was, yes, the goal was always to make the Olympics, and I made it. But I was so focused and it consumed me so much that it really wasn't fun for me anymore. It was really, really hard. And that's what I, tell my kids with their sports is, when it's not fun anymore, then let's find something that is fun and exciting that, will fulfill you. And, but I love the sport still. I support, the athletes, everything. I also teach USAW level 1 certs, and it's fun in a different way, but me on the platform is just not a fun idea to me anymore.
Well, I think that's an important point to get across to our audience here is that, here you are an Olympian, but yet you had your struggles. And I think people need to realize that it's going to be a little bit of a rough road. Okay. It's never going to be smooth sailing all the way through. And, I always preach, it's one thing to work on what you're good at, but you have to have the dedication to work on what you're not good at, something that's a limiting factor for you. For you, that was that anxiety.
Yeah.
And I just try to keep all my lifters, just have fun with it. Okay. If you miss the lift, so what? If you make the lift, great. But the whole idea is to enjoy the process instead of being so focused on the outcome that you just tighten up. So if
Yeah.
you enjoy the process and have a passion for it, you'll do okay. But again,
Yeah.
it's a struggle for everybody. Everybody's got their own struggles. So it's
Yeah.
so
And
nice to see you succeed.
the anxiety as an athlete, it affects your body in other
Hmm.
ways that, you wouldn't encounter during your training. So, your arms might be a little bit more tense, so you might be pulling on the bar, your breathing is off, so your timing could be off. It's not just like, oh, I'm nervous. There's a domino effect to it with how it impacts your performance. But yeah, I have never hidden the fact that I struggled with it because I want other athletes to know, like, I'm human, you're human, it's real, it happens even to, the best athletes. It's just it's real and there's nothing to be ashamed of. But yeah,
But you can
identify
still
your
accomplish your
weakness.
goals. You can
Yeah,
still
identify
accomplish
your
your goals.
weakness and work on it just like you would if you're, if you're getting pinned in the clean. Well, let's do some squats. Well, if you're having anxiety, let's work on, visualization, let's work on breathing. It's the same kind of training, just in a different way. You got to train your brain and not your
Yeah.
body.
Well, let's change the direction here just a little bit.
Yeah.
The Olympic experience. Let's just get back to that because I just think that is the coolest thing. Well, first of all, how were the Olympic trials? Because some people who are listening here, they maybe even forgot that at one point we had Olympic trials to determine who
Yeah.
made the team. That doesn't exist anymore, which by the way bothers me
Yeah.
because some athletes, it's the pinnacle of their career just to make
Yes.
the Olympic trials.
Yeah.
Even if they don't make the team
Yeah.
itself, they can say, "Hey, I lifted in Olympic trials." That's taken away some of our top lifters now. But just tell me about speaking of pressure and anxiety.
Yeah.
How was the
Yeah.
Olympic trials for you back in
Yeah.
2000? I guess it was 2007.
So we had that year for qualifying. The primary qualifier was obviously Olympic trials. The secondary was at the Arnold. It was the national championships.
Mm.
And I had a really awesome performance there. And for the team that year, they took the top four women, and I left the Arnold and I was in first place.
Mm.
And so I knew, hey, I'm sitting pretty good, but I still need to be ready at trials in case somebody comes out of, the woodwork
You
and
couldn't just
bumps me
mail it
off.
in.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So very, very real. It could have happened. And I remember at Olympic trials, it was in Georgia, at Georgia Tech. Mike Walters, our team massage therapist. I remember,
Favorite human
and
in the whole world.
you might have even been in there too, Leo. He was stretching me out, warming me up, and I started crying, hence anxiety. And he goes, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Mike, I think it's going to happen. I'm really scared." And he goes, "What's going to happen?" I said, "I'm going to make the team." And he started laughing. He goes, "What have you been doing all these years?" And I said, "I don't know." But I had, still to go and execute every lift, best of my ability. I got bumped from first to second or third. I mean, I was still safe, but we still had, people that came out and, they loaded up the bar. They put the weight on, whatever they needed to try to make it. And, one of them was Kara Heads. Kara put the weight on the bar. She made it. And then Cheryl came out, the benefits of being a super. Cheryl came out, did what she had to do. And, that was kind of the name of the game, you do what you have to do. So, but trials were just an incredible, experience to have my whole family there watching and supporting me. It really was, not just me lifting the weight. It was a family effort. It was, all the friends and, the other coaches that were there that had been working with me throughout the years. It was very exciting, but that wasn't the end goal. The end goal was the Olympics. So, it was close to the pinnacle, but it was just an incredible experience, and also, really an emotional one. And not a lot of people, talk about this. I don't want to talk about myself, but it's emotional as well from the standpoint that the people that you've trained with, they may not have made the team as well. So there is a sense of guilt and sadness that, the people that you've spent the last 8 years training alongside of didn't make it, which is, it's hard. It's emotional because you want to be excited, but you don't want to be too excited and gloat. And, I feel like I'm a very humble human being. And
You are.
it was just a really weird environment. And then especially to go back to the OTC, 2 days later and be like, all right, we got to start training for the Olympics. And the other people were still in the gym, that didn't make it. So that is also, something I wasn't anticipating. You'd think, oh, everybody's going to be so excited. Well, no, they're not going to be excited. And again, I would definitely handle it, I think, differently now knowing this. But there's a lot of unexpected things and emotions that come out of, making an Olympics. That's one of them. And then the post-Olympic depression also. What happens, after the games. And I competed August 12th, and I was back in Colorado Springs August 20th, sitting at the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs, taking my first full load of courses to finish my college degree. So you go from the high of the Olympics and, opening ceremonies, walking in by Kobe Bryant and, being by all these big wigs. And then you're just a regular student sitting next to somebody. So it's like a roller coaster of emotions that also, come with it. So it's more than just competing. There's a lot going on that I was not prepared for.
Well, we're so proud of all the things that you have done, and you continue to do things just real quick with the NSCA, you want to just kind of put a plug in for that, for what you're doing?
Yeah, so I oversee the NSCA Foundation. We offer grants, scholarships, and assistantships to NSCA members, whether you're a high school student or a senior level investigator. We have programs and opportunities for you. We have an equipment grant. We offer, financial support to attend national conference and local conferences. We have so many things. I joke and say I feel like I'm Oprah. I get to give away stuff, but I work with, yeah, exactly.
You get
Exactly.
a car.
You get a scholarship. You get a scholarship. But I work with, again, a incredible group of volunteers with the NSCA, over 100 people that make it all happen. And it's the community, it's the passion, the connection that I love about, the strength and conditioning community is, we're all just so like-minded. It doesn't matter that we have so many different paths of life. It's like, hey, you like lifting a barbell? You like lifting heavy things? Great, we're going to be friends. And you just get to meet people that you never would imagine meeting. I've got a friend that I talk to quite frequently on Instagram, and they're part of an astronaut training program. Wow. How cool is that? When would I have ever met somebody who's training to be an astronaut?
Yeah.
That's
their Olympics.
Yeah, just so many so many great people that we, get to engage with. And yeah, so
It's
that's a
been
little bit
really
about
cool watching that evolve over the last 9 years, 10 years. I got one of the very first, I think it was the first year of the assistantship ever. There was only one assistantship at the time, and a
wow,
couple
I
of us
didn't know
got
that.
it. Yeah, yep. It was before you were still with USA Weightlifting. I think it was Scott then who was doing
Yeah,
them.
Scott Caulfield.
It was before it was with the foundation. And so just to have like looked back and watched like how much they've evolved and how many more offerings there are and how, because that was a game changer for me in grad school.
Yeah.
It was the only reason I was able to stay on a second year and still work with the teams while I was finishing up my degree, and to know that you're making such a big difference in some of these new coaches' lives has just really been neat to watch it evolve from afar.
Yeah, and that's
That's a good
my
story. I
my
didn't
nature.
realize that.
Just that's my nature. Just as a person, is I
Yeah.
love helping people. I love connecting people for networking. So
Yep.
next week is the NSCA National Conference, and if I have a student, come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about going to grad school," and I'll talk to them a little bit more, and I'll be like, "Oh, I know who you can talk to." So I feel
Mhm.
like a bit of a matchmaker
Love
with
it.
things, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's an incredible group of people to be around, just very supportive and encouraging. Everybody is, I use the analogy, everybody's in the boat rowing together. We want the best for the strength and conditioning industry. We want the best for the athletes. And we want to make sure that there's good, credible, quality information out there, good research and, coaches that are capable. They're not learning how to coach off of, oh, I watched a YouTube video or something.
Right.
We want to make sure that, we're all contributing to the greater growth of the profession, and not
Yep.
just, strength and conditioning, but sports science as
Yeah.
well.
All of
Yeah.
it.
So down the road, I know you have to run here, and just to kind of close it out here a little bit, and I'm going to throw this out just to see your reaction.
Okay.
Where do you see
Uh-oh.
yourself in 10 years?
In 10 years, so I have about 8 more months left of a doctorate program that I'm in. So I
Yeah.
should be
Yeah.
graduating in May next year. So
Dr. Carissa. I like that.
yeah, yeah. How do you like that?
I like it.
Um, I am focusing on nonprofit management and leadership. I would love to stay with the NSCA, forever, but I don't know, what the trajectory is there with my job or,
Yeah.
the current leadership. So I would love to stay there. Again, you see how excited and passionate I am about it. The other areas that I'm really excited about is the Olympic and Paralympic Committee. I would love to maybe work with them, or anti-doping is another area that I'm very, very passionate about. So professionally, those would be, the areas that you may find me in, because those are just all things where I don't look at that as a job. Like, it sounds like fun. Um, Hopefully, maybe a little bit stronger, like, athletically, like more squats and stuff in my workouts. And I don't know, I don't think I'll lift in a competition, but maybe snatching and clean and jerking again.
There you go.
um
Oh,
yeah, I don't.
I want to see videos. Come on now. Don't get
Yeah.
me all excited, then leave me hanging.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know, I'm down a couple weight classes too, which was, that would be interesting as well, to
Well,
see how I
you
handle
do it
that.
for a different reason, you know?
Yeah, I do it for, for my health,
Yeah.
my general wellness. And somebody once said, like, I do it because I want to be able to put my socks on when I'm old,
Right.
Like,
That's it.
Hello, that would be me.
That's it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, then I think, just to add more to that, like, I want to continue being involved with Olympic weightlifting and USA weightlifting, and, growing the coaches and educating the coaches. I think that, we have a lot more coaches out there than we had back in the day.
Yeah.
Early 2000s, it was really hard to find a weightlifting coach. And I
Yeah.
remember trying to find a pair of weightlifting shoes, and you couldn't find them anywhere. You had to
Oh
order
boy.
them and wait for months to get them.
Yep.
But yeah, just to continue to grow the sport, but also, encourage women and moms, to lift weights and support, young female athletes as well. I think that's always going to be part of who I am and what I do, whatever role I'm in.
That's why we love having you on our podcast. We knew
Where do you
we
see
knew your
yourself in
story would
10
be
years,
excellent.
Leo?
What's that?
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
That's not fair. You shouldn't be asking me those things. um,
She knows. She can put you on
well,
the spot.
you know how to turn it around, and that's a good question. And the reason I think it's a good question is because I always give the little story that Krista, my older daughter, you know her, and
Yeah.
she's a bit of a wise ass, and she asked me one time. She said, "Dad, you're old. Why do you keep doing all your seminars and speaking and all that? Why do you keep doing all this stuff?" And I said, I just like what I do. I have a passion for it. It keeps me young. It keeps me busy.
Yeah.
So in 10 years, I know this might sound ridiculous, but I see myself doing the same thing,
Yep. And you
and
know
just
what?
evolving and doing more online things, doing more in-person things, and
Yeah.
spreading the word about the history, about athletes like you and who are becoming coaches and the things that you do. So
Yeah.
I'm like you. I just like helping people and helping people grow. That's why I like to connect with Cait because we have the same mindset as far as, helping people grow, helping get them through their anxiety or whatever issues they have. And that's a real plus for us to be able to do that. So as long as I'm able, I'm going to keep doing it.
And you know what, too? You'll look exactly the same because you have the reputation of being ageless. Everybody
Well,
sees
I
you
don't
and
know about
says,
that.
God, Leo still looks exactly the same, other than the mustache and no mustache.
No
You still look
mustache.
the same.
You know
That's been
why?
a while since we've seen the mustache.
Since
I
before
know
I met
because
him.
the hair doesn't turn gray, but
It's been
this
about
does.
20
So that's
years.
why I don't do it. So, but no, I appreciate that. But it's all about how you feel. And I still think one of the reasons I feel so good is because of all of my lifting
Yeah.
background. I still work out.
Absolutely.
I don't train anymore. I mean, well, you know how the training would go as far as, 6, 7 workouts a week. We're not doing that anymore. But if I can
Yeah.
do 3 lifting workouts and 3 cardio workouts, just trying to do something like
Hmm.
45 minutes to an hour every day, feel good. And that's really the main thing at this point.
Yeah.
So,
Every little bit matter. It
Yep.
all movement.
All
Just don't stop
facts.
moving. When
Yeah.
you
yeah,
stop moving,
you're
that's,
dead. Then
that's
you're dead.
when there's a problem. And
Yeah.
I say this all the time to people, like, don't stop moving. The last thing that goes for somebody is their independence, and it's the ability to stand up and sit down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Once you can't stand up and sit down, then your independence is gone and you're going to have to start relying on other people. So the I love, there's a coach, Robert Linkle. I work out with him online
Yeah. Yeah.
three
I know
times a
Robert.
week. And he's got a great program called TOA, Training the Older Adult. And they focus on those things that you don't even think about, like, functional movements of like being able to carry your groceries. And so they work out and they do movements that mimic things that they would do, in life, standing up, sitting down, carrying groceries, flexibility, balance, all of those things. And it's like, yeah, this is really, really important stuff because once you lose it, and also, I don't know what the percent is. Cait, you're more sciencey than I am,
Oh, I
but
can never off the top of my
the
head.
percent of muscle mass that you
Oh,
lose every
yeah.
year, from 50 and beyond,
The trajectory just increase. The rate increases significantly starting after I think it's 35, they say, if
yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
active.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's super, important also. And I think that as a whole and as a country, like,
Yeah.
I would love to see, people getting more movement and, doctors' offices, for example, loved this. Went to the doctor yesterday and he said, do you hike? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh. And he goes, let me write your prescription. And he wrote me out passes, Vermont State Park passes, one free entry to the park. And I'm like,
Oh,
this is awesome.
cool.
So that whole concept of, exercise is
Yeah.
medicine.
Yep. Yep.
If we as a country can get behind that instead of saying like, hey, you need to lose weight or just take this pill, or hey, your cholesterol's high, take this pill. Like,
Yep.
let's get moving, people. Let's write prescriptions and go lift weights,
Yeah. Love
I have
that.
a perfect example of that, and I haven't told a whole lot of people that uh, December 10th, I had back surgery. I
Hmm.
had a cyst that had developed between my L4 and L5, and they removed that. And because I had for 6 months, I was had this pain shooting down my leg, couldn't figure out what it was. We went through all
Oh,
the tests and all, and then and finally had the surgery. And once they took that out, I'm walking, I'm biking, I'm doing just regular things. I had my 3 month checkup, and they said you're free to do whatever you want to do. And they said the reason why is because I was in really good shape to begin with.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
afterwards, as soon as I could start doing rehab, PT type stuff, I'm on it. I said, look, I'm going to
Moving.
be your best
Yeah.
physical therapy patient ever. And
yeah,
so
Because you've been
yesterday
there.
I had
Yeah, you
my
know.
6 month checkup, and they're like, you're the best ever. Oh my God, they boosted my ego like crazy. They, oh,
yeah.
you're fantastic.
It
And
pays
most people
off
they
to,
come in and they said, well, this is still a problem. This is still a problem. And I'm like, I got nothing. Let's go. And
yeah,
so
you're
I
in great
really,
shape.
well, I wouldn't say great shape, but good enough that the point that you made about it's good medicine. If you
This,
want to save some money at the doctor's office, be healthy to begin with.
Yeah.
And even if you do come up with something, you'll bounce back from that quicker
Yep.
and just be more functional. And that's really what it's about right now. So
yeah,
all the lifting we all have
yeah.
done, I think that gives you that longevity.
Huge.
So
It
10 years from
absolutely
now, I'm
does.
still
It
going to be
does.
doing this, I hope.
Awesome.
So,
We'll be
uh,
right back here. We'll do a 10-year reunion
10-year
podcast.
review. Love it.
oh, that would be wonderful. That would
Putting
be
it on the
wonderful.
calendar now.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, look, I know you have to run, Carissa, so I
Yep.
really appreciate you taking the time to do this. We had to move this back to 12:30 for you so that we could accommodate you because we didn't want to miss out. That's for sure.
No, thank
So,
you. Thanks for having me.
Thank
And
oh
you.
man,
I look forward to
I'll
listening to
see
the
you next
podcast.
week.
Yeah.
I'll see you
Yep. I'll
next
see you
week.
next week in Kansas
Yeah.
City.
Yep, for sure. And I won't be there as long this time, but hopefully we'll be able to spend some time together. And Cait, of
Sounds good.
course, thank you so much. You're the
Yep.
best. She's
Thanks,
my right
Cait.
hand man.
Good to see you, Krista.
So, all right,
You too.
Cait, do you want to add anything to close out here?
No, I think it was great. So much
Okay,
gratitude.
another really good podcast, Carissa. Once again, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. Take care now.